candidates, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michaela. I'm the content creator here at KandidKayla.com. Here on this platform, we are all about helping each other grow in our wellness in the 8 dimensions of wellness as we grow ourselves in ourselves and for ourselves. So as it pertains to my relational wellness, I've been recently debunking a lot of what I believe or don't believe as it relates to this title of being a single Christian woman. One of the things that I've been investigating more specifically is that a lot of this just boils down to choice and not so much biblical standards. So I think there's a lot of opinion when it comes to singleness and Christian dating and what people accept or believe to be right or wrong. But every relationship is different and no two relationships are the same. And as a result, I think we have to stand on Bible and less on opinion when it comes down to how we navigate these things. Being a 25-year-old Christian single woman that's holding out and waiting until marriage and choosing to abstain from certain things this entire time, what does that mean for me, and how do I navigate this space that I've seen nobody before me really navigate? So I've decided that I'm choosing to be single for this season of my life, and I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. This choice, at the time, I didn't realize it was a choice. I thought like everybody else. I thought that there was something that qualified me for marriage and I was just waiting for it to happen. Or I was doing all this growing and all this maturing and all these things and working on myself and all the buzzwords, I was doing all the things they tell you to do in an effort for me to attract the right spouse or whatever the heck they tell you. And now at 25, I'm starting to understand that it has nothing to do with that. I could have been married 3, 4, 5 times over if I really wanted to, but that's not my goal. And knowing that's not my goal, knowing that my goal is true purpose and really walking in God's calling for my life, this choice, this fundamental choice is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the power of choice and how if God gave us free will, we all have a choice to do whatever we want to do, but understanding that each one of our choices has a consequence. So if I'm trying to keep the Lord the head of my life, which is really all I'm trying to do as this Christian single woman under this title, right? I just want the Lord to have full control over every area of my life. I want to have faith to believe that every desire that I have, because I delight in the Lord, every desire that I have, He will fulfill. So that includes my singleness, you know what I'm saying? So if I believe that, truly believe that, then my choices need to reflect that belief in order for the consequence to align with what the Lord has. So there's a condition to that consequence. My choice is to take delight in the Lord so that my consequence will ultimately be Him giving me the desires of my heart. The Lord only gives us 3 commands in the Bible when it comes to spouse picking. And that is 1, abstaining from premarital sex or adultery. The second thing that He tells you to do is not to be unequally yoked. Now, that doesn't mean that if you marry an unbeliever, God can't have the grace or the mercy to rectify or bring that person to Christ or what have you, or keep your marriage whole or anything like that, because there is biblical stance for that. Like that, if that's what you're called to, that's what the Lord has told you to do, then so be it. The last thing that the Lord tells us not to do is to settle. He doesn't explicitly say it in scripture, but you can see through the life of Abraham and Abraham choosing to have a child with his concubine versus having a child with his wife. So understanding that those are the only 3 qualifications, there's so much gray area, so you can really do whatever it is that you want to do. So this value of choice is so important because you need to always be submitting yourself to the Lord and what His plan is for your life, so that again, as you're making the choices, they align with His plan for your life, so that the consequence aligns with the promise that God has for you. On that same vein, are you going to choose your wants versus your needs? Again, back to the verse, take delight in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. So taking delight in the Lord, what does that look like for you? It really boiled down to me understanding what I needed versus what I wanted. So I'm going to go through a few examples that I personally have been going through recently and how I'm making the choice to choose my needs over my wants and some difficult things that I've had to do in order to ensure that I stick with my needs instead of choosing my wants. I wanted to not have to have the conversation with my grandparents that I'm single at 25 and there's no prospects. But I needed to be in this space so that I could have the focus to finish my degree and to get to a place where I am financially in a position and living a day-to-day life that I could have never thought or imagined in all my days. And that consequence of the favor of God is what I needed. But my desire was to not be embarrassed. My want was to not be embarrassed. So I ultimately have been walking in what I needed, but what I want still is valid. And how do I deal with the disappointment of not getting what I want and knowing that what I need is so much greater? Do I want to be a serial dater, or do I want to be preparing myself for marriage? Which one do I want? Which one do I need? I know that I want to be out here living my best life with all the different suitors possible, because that is the way that I am comfortable. There's very little vulnerability involved with just dating, just to date, right? But I know that I need to be focusing on the Sierra prayer. I know that I'm called to marriage. I know that eventually I'm going to have to get to a place where I am vulnerable with someone, where I am willing to open myself up to someone, where I am in a place where I want to have those deep conversations and all the intimacy and the kissing and the hugging and all the things that I don't want to do right now. So I know that that's what I need, but I also know what I want. When it boils down to it, I have to start preparing myself for what I need and not what I want if I'm truly going to keep Christ the head of my life. And it's hard. This has probably been one of the hardest seasons of my life. So let's go ahead and get real here. We're getting really real. I want sex, but I need intimacy. I'm saving myself to marriage, and I want to have sex. I'm 25. And I have never experienced hormones to the level that I have in the last 6 months ever in my life. This is for the birds. I'm not a fan to all my other single women out there, especially the ones that are younger than me. Listen, cold showers. I recommend them, ladies. Cold showers and lots of prayer. I mean, talking out loud prayer, being honest with God about why you feel the way you feel, and really identifying what those triggers are for yourself. That is what's helping me choose intimacy. And when I'm talking about intimacy, I'm not just talking about like intimacy with someone else. I'm talking about intimacy with God. I'm learning now how to really have that as it pertains to my sexuality with the Lord, and really not just taking the cold showers and like praying and stuff like that. It boils down to even deeper than that, right? We're talking true transparency before the Lord. And this is something that the last 6 months, I was never honest with myself, I don't think, about my sexuality, let alone honest with God. And I've had to get really honest with him. Like, Lord, I'm feeling some sort of wet. And I think what makes it even harder is like, I've gotten a lot of advice from single women that are single, not because they're single by choice. And no one prepared me for being single by choice and having options to have that want met and choosing to say no. Nobody prepared me for this. It's not just the no, okay? Like, it goes beyond the no. It's like no on a consistent basis. It's no and not even halfway. It's no and I'm making a choice to not even open the door for point A so that I can keep the consequence at points D, E, F, G through Z. Like, it's so much harder than anybody ever shared with me, and I'm so irritated by it because I really wish somebody would have really told me how hard this was. Honestly, I should have known, because I don't really know anybody who waited like that. But it's hard out here for a pimp named Slickback, especially when this pimp can get what you want when she feel like it. It's really hard for me not to fold at the weight of the choice itself. But nonetheless, I have to choose my need for intimacy with Christ. I have to choose that every single day over sex. with all of that, I want confidentiality, but I need accountability. So, child, I want to be able to do what I want to do and nobody know but me and that other person. But I know that I need accountability for my actions. I need to be open and transparent with people about how I'm feeling, because without that accountability, I am more likely to make the choice to go for sex over intimacy. So the older I get, the more I'm starting to learn what accountability really looks like. It's not just telling people your business. There is a certain level of vulnerability with it, most definitely, but it's not just telling people your business. It's really, it boils down to, this is what I'm dealing with. And my accountability, again, is in different areas. It's not just accountability over my sexual life. I have a therapist, I have a mother, I have a best friend, I have multiple best friends actually, and I keep them all aware of like, Chad, I'm going through X, Y, and Z right now. So hold me accountable, because I want to make sure that I'm not out here, okay? Help me to make the conscious decision not to, be out here just randomly dating random people just because I feel like it, because I want to be entertained. Like, make sure that I'm keeping my values. Make sure those 3 reasons and those 3 biblical standards stay the center of my life. That way, all of my other consequences make sense. The last thing I wanted to talk about is how all of this boils down to, do we want our flesh or do we want Christ? And while there is that gray area, there is a certain level of duality. Whatever God has called you to do is what you need. End of story. And whatever you want, if that differs from what you need, you can't choose it. You have to choose what God has for you. You have to choose the greater plan. And it might be easier in the moment. Like I said, it's so much easier to just, for me personally, be single and be out here and just chilling and doing whatever it is that I want to do. It'll be so much easier for me to do that for the rest of my life than to have to go and learn how to be vulnerable, learn how to better communicate, learn how to be in a relationship where I learn to compromise, and learn how to deal with my childhood trauma so that I can be a good parent and a good spouse and a good productive member of society and all the things. It's so much easier to not do any of the work. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. If nothing has been the theme of 2021, let's go ahead and get the theme out there. You have to show up for yourself and you have to do the work. So while this choice and this pathway of choice, and whatever the choice is for you, whatever the dilemma is between your wants and your needs, and it's not just in relationships, child. I've just been giving relationship examples because this is what I've been going through, and I really feel like somebody else is going to be blessed by the experience and knowing that they're not alone as they're walking this single Christian journey. But no matter what it is, even if you want to be a millionaire, but God has called you to the storeroom. If you want to be a teacher, but you need to be an engineer, that doesn't mean that what you want won't eventually happen, especially if you're delighting yourself in the Lord. He will give you the desires of your heart. So if that's truly something you want, it might not be right now. You might have to go through what you need in order to get what you want, ultimately. But at the end of the day, what God says is always what you need. What God says is always more timely. What you need is always what's going to help propel you and grow you in your areas of wellness. And it affects, this consequence procedure affects all the other areas of your wellness. It's not like it's isolated. So my relational wellness, if I'm not choosing correctly, if I'm not doing what I need to do, it'll eventually start to affect my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, all of the things. There is an ultimate consequence, and these consequences will eventually bleed out, but don't let the consequences always be negative. You can go for what you need. You can choose what you need. You can relish and grow and really maximize what you need in order for those consequences to work in your favor. So ultimately, the promise, again, is if you take delight in the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart. So in order for that promise to be true, you have to choose to take delight in Him in order for your consequence to be that He would give you the desires of your heart. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I know this was a bit of a long one and I touched a lot of topics, but there will be a blog post associated with all the verses and everything that I've mentioned in the description box below. As always, if you guys have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section and I will get to them as soon as I can. And thank you guys so much for your time, and until the next video, have a good one. Bye.